Don't forget to check out the Bias Premier League show with myself, Robbie, and Ty, and
Peace.
Where's Yardy?
Oh, he's not great loss, man. He's a waste of space.
Is that how you carrying on?
He can't see me. Yeah,
well, Yardy will be here, so make sure you check it out. And I want you to tell him that to his face.
Tell him what? I didn't say that. Yardy's my best friend.
Hey everyone, welcome back to AFTV, welcome back to the Tactical Insight Show. Graham and I are here to break down a 3-0 win against Fulham. We absolutely demolished them, and we're going to talk about how we did it. Welcome, Graham.
Yeah, good morning, James. On the day that Gabriel Jesus returned to the team with an impressive cameo off the bench, Mikel Arteta held Leonardo Trossard's intelligence as our false nine made 3 assists in our 3-0 win at Fulham yesterday. Arsenal were helped by Silva's tactics. In recent weeks, we've been up against teams playing a deep block, but Silva went into this game and employed a very aggressive high press against Arsenal, and this enabled Arsenal really to play their 5 key principles of play in this game, and that is the composure to play out from the back, the ability to keep the ball in tight spaces, the patience to hang on to the ball, and the ability to make the right pass once they understand the space, and then to get their 5 lanes up high to create overloads in the box, and that's ultimately how the game played out.
Well, we saw, sorry to cut you there, we actually saw that in one of the goals, didn't we? In that second goal, which we're going to break down. Yeah. You mentioned the 5 key principles.
Yeah, I think the thing is that was a 23 pass sequence that we're going to break down today. And I saw at the weekend a stat from Opta that basically said that Arsenal have been involved in 385 sequences of 10 plus passes in open play this season. 107 of those passes build up attacks that have led to a touch or a shot in the opponent's box, and at 28% that is the highest in the league, and one of the reasons that defines why we are at the moment top of the league.
Listen, of all the goals we've recreated, this was one of the most fun for sure, and you'll see it in a little bit why. But as always, we start with the match stats. We start at the very top of all our shows, which is just looking at the overview, at the numbers. Talk us through them, Graham.
Yeah, I think these stats were a bit closer than I thought, actually. I think the way the game started yesterday, James, the first 10-15 minutes, both sides were feeding each other out.
Yeah, I agree.
And then Arsenal took over for the second part of that first half. And then in the second half, I thought we managed the game. So I think these stats are closer than you might imagine. We had 15 shots, 7 on target to their 12 shots. They had 2 on target. The possession in the end was pretty much closer than it looked at one stage. 55% for us, 45% for them. Passes completed, obviously we completed more passes, and XG at the bottom there, we outscored our XG. We were at 2.3, we actually scored 3 goals. They were at 0.8 XG.
And you know what? You say it surprises you, and I kind of think the same, but I wasn't overly surprised. I had a moment, I was at Craven Cottage, I had a moment where I thought, these match stats could be interesting. And I kind of actually wondered whether by the end of the game we'll have been outshot by Fulham. Now we weren't, and I think that's because I wasn't giving enough credit to the amount of chances Arsenal really had. I mean, we scored 3 goals, it could easily have been 5, 6, 7. I don't think we're exaggerating when we say that. But I did think there were, people talk about it as a 90-minute demolition. And look, I think ultimately there's never going to be a game of football where you are in control from minute 0 to maybe like Leicester away last the 1-0. Dave Jordan will be in the comments because he knows I enjoyed that win. But actually I thought the first 15-20 minutes we did take a while. You summed up brilliantly when we were talking off camera. They were feeling each other into the game, Fulham and Arsenal, just kind of waiting to see what they kind of both had, who's going to throw the first punch. When Arsenal had that disallowed goal, I think then the confidence grew and it was like, right, now we can ramp it up. And at that point, from 20 minutes on, Arsenal were sensational. Second half, they threw a lot of punches, but poor punches, and that's why you get, you know, a low quality chances. That's why you got a 0.8 XG there from Fulham. Let's talk about the attack stats. And of course, 41 final third entries for Arsenal to Fulham's 45, and I think that's kind of what I mean. The fact that we had the fewer final third entries. They did have plenty of territory at times, Fulham, but we were just far better with it. 48 deep touches to their 22, 9 zone 14 touches to their 15. Again, these kind of stats prove our point. 54% field tilt to their 46%. And then we have a little look at some of the defensive numbers, which show that Arsenal weren't massively aggressive on the press with a 14.2 passes per defensive action to their 18.6. Plenty of tackles, interceptions, not much in it, clearances, not much in it. So as much as we did destroy them, you know, it was more like we got the job done very efficiently, and then it was a case of, look, we'll just push, we'll hold you back there. If we have to ramp it up, we will.
Yeah, I think the stats are pretty much in attacking and defensive are pretty closer than you might have thought. I thought second half, as I said earlier, we managed the game. They had that one big chance. Well, they didn't create a big chance, actually. I think it was where Gabriel made the slight slip and Ramsdale made the save, and then they got the corner and they hit the bar with a header from the corner. But overall, apart from that, I thought defensively, Saliba and Gabriel was really good, particularly Saliba. I know we're going to touch on Saliba today. The stats, as I say, were closer than the scoreline. That's, I think, the way of summing it up. And in the end, 3-0, I don't think flatters us. I think some of the football we played, this was the level of football that we were playing pre-Christmas, before the World Cup. And, you know, we've now more clean sheets this season, I think, than we had in the whole of last season.
You're right.
Ramsdale has now, I think, 9 clean sheets away from home, another impressive stat. And full credit to the defence as well as the attack yesterday.
You know what, and actually you touched on something there that's spot on. I want to make the point that just because we're going through these stats and they look a little tighter, we're trying to explain why they feel a bit tighter. We're not saying for 1 second that it wasn't a 3-0 win, or that, you know, 1 or 2-0 would have been fairer, or a 2-1. Nothing like that. Arsenal absolutely deserved their 3 and more. Could easily have 4, 5, 6. I think when we're talking about periods of the game, we break up into 90 minutes, there were just sections in which Arsenal absolutely obliterated Fulham, could have done a lot more, and others in which Arsenal went through a bit of a lull, knowing that the game was won, and they just stayed focused and did the job, which is absolutely fine. I want to talk about shape, if that's all right. And I know I normally leave this to you, but I'm stealing this section from you this week. Apologies. Because you told me to have a look at this, which is the average positions. So I will pass it back over to you for 1 sec, because this does look very interesting, doesn't it?
It does. And I think the thing when I showed this to you last night was, we look at our left-hand side. The flexibility and fluidity of our team overall, which a few weeks ago we had a few concerns about our left-hand side, didn't we? When Martinelli lost his way a little bit. This, to me, shows the flexibility and fluidity now on that left-hand side. This is the average match positions. So we've got like our false 9, Trossard, over here with Martinelli. Over here on the left-hand side, Xhaka. This is the average match positions, remember, and Zinchenko. Look, they are all in that area. That is their average position. That shows, I think, the fluidity of that left-hand side, which wasn't working a few weeks ago. The right-hand side with White, Odegaard and Saka was better, and Partey as well on that side. But look now, we've replicated it on the left-hand side. And I think our left-hand side in this game was key to unlocking Fulham. Yeah,
it's very interesting that the 2 highest players are the wingers who really hug the touchline, but they're also the 2 highest.
Yeah, and I said to you a few weeks ago, didn't I? I like the way this team has evolved now. These young players, Saka and Martinelli now, who's scored, I think, more goals this season that don't include penalties, the most since Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang had 20 a few years ago. He's now got 12. Him and Saka, for me, are almost like our 2 forwards at times. And I want to see them sort of like in these sort of positions. I want Trossard or Jesus dropping in here, you know, to build the play. And I want Saka and Martinelli sort of like making these out-to-in runs and getting on the end of things, you know. And we talked about this before, about them making direct runs from out to in and getting into the box. Because they, to me, are almost like forwards to me. They're wide forwards, but I see them as forwards. And I think this average positions of the match shows that Martinelli is the furthest forward, and then Saka is the next furthest forward. And, you know, for me, though, I just want to take you back to that left-hand side. I thought yesterday that was functioning so well.
It really was. And what I sort of noticed watching the game, Arsenal's many shapes, here we are, is how Arsenal are so incredibly fluid. We've touched on fluidity before, but we talk about fluidity, you tend to think of the final third, what Arsenal do in the final third to break teams down when we talk about fluidity. I'm talking also about the ability for this system to constantly change and evolve throughout the match to deal with whatever they've got to deal with. Now, we've got a few shapes. Firstly, Arsenal in possession, and we've got the usual, the back 3 and build up, Partey coming between the lines, Zinchenko's there, Odegaard and Xhaka splitting, and then the really high and wide wingers. Now we saw a little bit of that, and now the very sort of first thing that everyone would have noticed at times is that we also got this, which is Trossard and Martinelli swapping positions. We saw a lot of that. They interchange a lot. They're very happy to play in each other's positions. Fantastic. We actually see that for the second goal, which we're going to touch on in a second. Then we move it one along. And at times, we saw this as well. We saw Zinchenko hugging the width because he is, the touchline, because he is a left back. We saw Trossard and Martinelli maybe a little bit more central. We saw Odegaard coming into the 10 space a little bit more. They alternate in that sense. Sometimes Arsenal would even move. I've gone too far there, apologies. Let's go back to that one there. There we go, I've made a complete mess of this. Is it this one? Yeah, here we go. We have White right up the pitch as well sometimes because he has to overlap. He can only overlap when Saka's come inside a little bit more. And then what you've actually got is really just the two centre-backs left alone to do their defending. Now, if we lose the ball and we give it to Fulham, you got your 4-4-2 where Odegaard will come and press high up with the forward and they get into a nice shape. Xhaka comes in deep next to Partey. But at times, and this is where I thought was really interesting, yes, you had Trossard swapping with Martinelli, but you even had, when they were getting their fullbacks up the pitch, Trossard really dropping into almost like a wing-back position at times, I noticed. Yeah. He's played there for Brighton before, which I thought was really interesting. And then the final one I want to show is that Saka as well was doing the same on that side of the pitch.
Yeah, I think that this team now is so well coached by Arteta. This is elite coaching, I think. The way that the players are positioned to be able to be close together when we've got the ball and close together when we lose the ball in transition. They work so incredibly hard off the ball now.
Yeah.
And a few seasons ago, Arsenal teams didn't do that. We've said that in the past. So I think that the way this team now is built with the fluidity and flexibility on the ball and the technical skill they've got on the ball and the work rate off the ball, he's created, I think, a team that is so structurally perfect to actually enable these players to express themselves on the ball and be able to work back as a team off the ball. And I think you see that I think week in, week out now. And I think, you know, the way we sort of press in a 4-4-2 when we lose the ball, the way we build up in our asymmetrical shape is a 3-2-5, comes to 2-3-5. The way we sort of like wait for, as I said in my intro, wait for that right pass to make, we're very, we've got the ability to keep the ball, make the right pass, one touch, two touch, the technical ability to play round teams. And that was the difference between the two teams yesterday, James, is I thought that we had the technical ability on the ball to play round them, and I thought we pressed better than them. And once we were able to play round their press, I think, so well to sort of like create the openings we made.
You're absolutely right, and we should touch on their press. And it's going to incorporate everything we've talked about so far on this show. But let's highlight it here. So here's Fulham.
Yeah.
Where do you want me to stop the play?
Well, I think this is the second goal, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think you've recreated this absolutely brilliantly because we went through this before the show. So the point I'm going to make here, this is what Silva decided to do in this game. Instead of using, teams lately against Arsenal have used the low block or the deep block and have played on the counter or gone long, tried to sort of mix it up and play for second balls. He stuck to his principles yesterday, Silva, which he's employed at Fulham this season, and that is to press really aggressively from the front. And you'll see, as this play develops, Arsenal by now, this is the second goal, we're leading by 1-0 with a goal from Gabriel from the corner. As it goes out to Ben White, you can see they've got 6 or 7 players pressing from the front. Their 4-4-2 out of possession has now developed into this pressing strategy where they've got Mitrovic and Pereira up high, and you've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and if you count Robinson who's pressing onto Saka, they've got like a 7v7 here. So, but one thing they didn't have is once this play develops, and I think Donovan Reid goes slightly forward, is once this play develops, Xhaka then will come forward into the space. And that's where we create the space for the move to develop. But they press really high here. They've got like a 6 and even a 7v7 as we try to play out. But this is what Arteta welcomes. Players are so composed in the way they play out now. They're not frightened to play out now. And we want teams to play like this to sort of like be able to sort of like play round them the way we play round them. And I know you're going to develop this on now because this was a 23 pass move for us for our second goal.
It was an unbelievable move. I'm going to move it all the way back. Apologies. Let's go all the way back because you can now see how it's going to build. This pass, the reason Saliba's here is because actually Gabriel's kind of forced him back. They're trying to open the pitch up, and Fulham are actually defending and pressing quite well at this point. And I think you're right to talk about it. I'm going to show the goal through and one. So White gets the ball into Odegaard, lovely into Partey. Saka comes short, and he has to look after the ball here, and he does really well. I don't think it was Saka's best game, but he does really well in that move. Comes all the way back to Saliba, and then it's that switch pass to Xhaka that really opens up the pitch. Xhaka gets the ball, and I didn't realise quite how far he carried the ball. But he takes it a really long way, rolls it into Trossard. And actually, it wasn't a great pass. Let's take a good touch, Trossard. Fronts up Tete, then goes around the outside and puts it in to Martin. He puts it into the back of the net. Now, I want to go from... I mean, the football's brilliant. If we go here. So, Saka looks after it really well. Solomon then takes the ball on. It comes back to Saliba. Now, whilst they've done well, they've looked after it so well, but because Fulham have actually pressed quite well, I think they sense that they might win that ball back. They're so committed up the pitch. Decordova-Reid starts this move all the way out here, but he moves all the way inside because he senses Zinchenko might get it. When you're a 4-4-2, you want to be quite narrow, so you've got their four-man midfield there. And that's when, as they get sucked back and back, I mean, Saliba's literally on the goal line. He goes, yeah, cool, and then he switches it. And Xhaka is the one who receives the ball there. Now, when we talked about fluidity, which we mentioned earlier in this video, it's Martinelli up front in this situation. It's Trossard hugging the wing. Now, normally, you'd think, well, shouldn't Xhaka, you know, a good, accomplished physical player, good on the ball, shouldn't he be there to help deal with that? But he says, no, I don't need to be involved. It's fine. I'll wait here. Zinchenko's come all the way inside, so I'm going to make sure I'm hugging the space where he could be. And that is what it brings everything we've just been saying together. The average positions, the interchanging, the fluidity, from Xhaka being where maybe you'd expect Zinchenko to be, to Trossard being where you'd expect Martinelli to be. It's fine. It all still worked. They found a way, and they scored a really great second goal. I don't think you'll find a better back-to-front goal all season in the Premier League, or maybe a handful, but it makes the top 3 or 4 for sure. It's a fantastic goal.
It is, absolutely. 100% agree with you. I think when Granit Xhaka sort of, with that progressive carry, takes it really deep, his pass to Trossard is very heavy.
Yeah.
And I think Trossard does really well to take it in his stride, and then check back to steady himself, to sit the ball up at the back stick for Martinelli. I mean, that was an elite piece of skill. Martinelli, we have to say, the challenge from Robinson was pretty much non-existent. But his header was sublime, and it was the end to a superb team goal.
It really, really was. Now, you sent this through. It was really interesting that Arsenal, the first team in the Premier League to have 3 players with 10 plus goals this season. Marte 12, Saka 10, Odegaard 10. You mentioned that PSG, the only other team in Europe, I think.
In Europe's top 10 leagues.
Wow. So
how have 3 players with 10 or more goals this season.
So who was it on 19? Was it
Mbappe?
Mbappe, and then Messi and Neymar on 13.
Messi and Neymar on
It's not bad company.
13. So we're in a very elite company, aren't we?
Yeah, not bad
Although
at all.
people say they're in the Farmers League, aren't they?
Well, that people do say that. Not us. Don't come at us.
Not us.
Don't come at us. I really want to give us credit, because going into the season, and we projected what Arteta was maybe trying to do with signings of Jesus, Vieira, we sort of looked at whether Arsenal were trying to build a team that could not have one 25, 30 goal a season player, but several 15 goal a season players. And we are getting something like that, because when you look at the team, and this is the whole outfield squad that's left here. Of course, some others, you know, Lokonga's gone and whatever. But when you look at this team, and you look at the goal contributions, you've got Saka on 10 goals, you've got Jesus on 5, and Nketiah 4, Trossard on 1, but we know how many he got for Brighton. Martinelli on 12. Smith Rowe hasn't yet scored, he's been injured, but look at his contribution last season for goals, so you know he's got it in him. Odegaard with 10, he stepped up with 10 league goals, Odegaard. Vieira, he's got 1, but I think a handful as well in his time at Arsenal, including friendlies and cup games. Xhaka with 3, Partey with 3. You're getting goals from your centre-backs, a goal each from your full-backs. I mean, everyone is chipping in, and that is part of the... You lose one player, it's fine, because someone else can come in, and you're not thinking, well, we've just lost 15 goals by losing that player. It's a massive, massive thing for Arsenal.
It is, and I think if you look at it, it's almost like Man City and Arsenal now roles reversed.
Right, it's weird,
because
isn't it?
Manchester City last season were spreading the goals around the team. This season, obviously, Haaland is scoring most of their goals, and we have gone almost in the direction of Man City. We haven't got a Haaland up front, but we have got players now sharing the workload, goals right around the team. I think the front 4 have been absolutely unbelievable this season. Odegaard, we asked him, we said last season, I can remember me and you saying we wanted to see him score more goals, and how he's responded. I can't talk highly enough of him, the way he captains this team, his work rate off the ball, the way he dictates play for us, and he's adding goals to his game. That's a superb number 10 goals now for him. And Saka and Martinelli, outstanding numbers. These guys are 21 or under. It's unbelievable stats.
This is just
players.
league goals as well.
These are just league goals, yeah.
Saka's got a few
It's
in
great
Europa,
that we're sharing
few
them
in the
around the
World
team,
Cup.
and and I think it's great to see.
I've got to say, it's really, really impressive. And one player we've got to talk about is Leandro Trossard, because I thought he was an absolute star in the game. I'm going to take on Trossard and you're going to take on Saliba. That's how we divided it. So, played 77 minutes of the 90, got 3 assists out of the 3 goals. Didn't get one of the goals, of course. You can't get an assist and a goal. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? I wonder what that would look like. 54 touches in the game, 7 crosses, 6 times he won possession back. And I wanted to highlight the defensive work he did in my fan cam. And I'm so glad you brought that stat out. 2 duels won as well, 2 big chances created, 3 touches opposition box, 2 shots. But his season stats in the Premier League, 8 Premier League goals and 8 assists. That includes his time at Brighton as well. What a campaign Leandro Trossard is having. He's come in, dare I say, don't say elevated us, because obviously we're talking about since Jesus has been missing and Nketiah's added something very different as well, and I don't want to take from that, but he's definitely brought, he's knitting things together in the final third, and I love watching him play.
Arteta talks about his intelligence, didn't he? His intelligence, and I said that in my intro, his intelligence, the way he's fitted in and understood the way we play. I see him, I said to you this morning, I see comparisons with one of his Belgian colleagues, Dries Mertens.
You did say,
who played for Napoli, and I think he's in Turkey now, at Galatasaray, I think. Someone will correct me if I'm wrong, I think he's in Turkey now. And he's obviously a bit further on in his career. But I see parallels. They're both wingers, they both play that false 9 position, they're both small in stature, high in skill, great work rate, and tremendous intelligence, understanding of space, appreciation of players around them, able to sort of like play in a number of positions. And I think he's fitted in so well with this group. And I think, we talked a few weeks ago about Mudryk, how disappointed we were to lose him. But there's no way Mudryk would have come in and done what Trossard has done. And this was an unbelievable bit of business by Arsenal. They identified players pre-season. They wanted Martinez. We ended up getting Zinchenko. It's been an uplift. We identified Mudryk. We ended up getting Trossard. And I think that you could argue that's been an uplift to the team. And we couldn't get Caicedo, and we got Jorginho. We've had backup plans in place.
It's true.
And this backup plan, I think, is the best of all. This guy has come in and elevated the team over recent weeks. He's only scored 1 goal, but his assists, his work rate for the team, he's improved Martinelli. I think that's the biggest credit I can give him. And those two are combining so well at the moment. There's almost an argument that Gabriel Jesus does not come straight back into the team. As much as we love to see him on the pitch yesterday, you were probably cheering like he scored a goal every time he touched the ball yesterday.
Brilliant.
But I just want to see Jesus eased in gradually. I don't want to see this team at the moment with Trossard and Martinelli working so well disturbed, and those numbers are exceptional, James.
They are. So about William Saliba, I thought he was the best performance, I think, since the World Cup. It was fantastic. I'll let you talk it through.
Wow, 90% pass accuracy, 6 clearances, 4 tackles, 1 shot and 1 dribble completed. Now, we asked Saliba to do 2 things on this team. One is to be composed on the ball, to be really good on the ball. And he was back to his best yesterday, demonstrated by you and the way you demonstrated that pass out to Granit Xhaka yesterday. We also ask him to cover a lot of space because we play a high line. Him and Gabriel are almost like a 2 back at times. He does that so superb with those long strides. And I thought yesterday he was up against Mitrovic, who was a real physical handful, and he limited him so much. He hardly had any touches in the box, hardly any shots. I just think this was a brilliant performance by Saliba. In the week, he scored a goal in Lisbon, didn't he?
He did,
from a corner, and Gabriel replicated that yesterday. So him and Gabriel adding goals from set plays, which is crucial for centre-backs. But they are, I said last week, the best centre-back pairing in the league. I think yesterday that was his best performance for a long time. I thought he was superb.
Yeah, and actually you're right, that's 2 games in a row where set pieces have broken the deadlock for us. And actually, interestingly, because we had a little bit of a lull in set pieces, we started conceding more, not really scoring from as many. So that's really good that we're making use of set pieces. Did so against Bournemouth as well at the end there with that Nelson goal and all that. So that's all fantastic, and credit to William Saliba. One player I do want to shout out, we won't go into the numbers or anything, but I do want to shout out, is Thomas Partey. I thought he was, I tell you what, watching him live, it was just sitting there going, I've seen him play live plenty of times, but I was watching him thinking, wow, that ball it doesn't look like he should get to it. It looks like the game's opened up and he was just there to sweep things up. He was brilliant.
Yeah, and just before you move on to the next piece, Thomas Partey was most in the following yesterday. Most successful dribbles, 4 out of 4. Best in passing accuracy at 95%.
Wow.
And best in duels won. He won 8 out of 11 duels. And I think
Thanks for getting those out.
that was when he's in this team, you can see the difference.
Yeah.
The way he breaks up play, the way, and also his passing accuracy. I think people forget that. They see him as a person who just breaks up play, but the way he plays through the lines, is passing through the lines.
Yeah.
Is very important to the team, and I thought he was immense yesterday.
We've got Arteta here. He's reached 100 wins. I'm going to let you talk us through it. But you know what I was just thinking, right? If you had a graph where you had the 167 games across and then you had 100 wins, I bet the graph would go something like this, and then it would just shoot up because it's just had a real acceleration.
Well,
Turkish always talks about, you know, Arteta talking about the project going bang. Turkish says this must have been the bang he mentioned. And that win percentage would have shot up massively from at least the last 30 games as well. It's brilliant.
Just correct you on your graphic there, mate. I know you do so many great graphics, but obviously 100 wins, 24 draws, 43 defeats. So just obviously...
My bad. Apologies. I'm sorry.
Win rate was 59.8%.
You know
that was his 100th win yesterday in 167 games. He's had 43 defeats.
Keep talking.
It feels like he's only had. It feels like he's only had 24 defeats, and it's so many defeats, so little defeats this season. Yeah, we just
never happened.
It never happened. 43 defeats. There you go,
never saw anything.
Yeah, so
there we go.
Congratulations, Mikel Arteta. 100 wins as Arsenal manager in only 167 games, and look at that win rate, nearly 60. It's up to nearly 60 now, as you say. As Turkey said, it has almost gone bang, hasn't it?
Yeah. Credit to him, really, real credit to him. And also I love the way he managed the subs yesterday, who he gave game time to, how he did it.
The bench looked great yesterday.
The bench looked really good, but that's without Eddie, that's without Smith Rowe getting minutes, Georgina getting minutes. You're probably thinking, where's the Jesus segment? We're not going to do a Jesus segment. And the only reason is because there's a really good discussion we want to have on a show called Behind the Numbers. You'll have seen that with me and Turkish back at Christmas. We are going to do one, hopefully with Graham as well, where we're going to look at Jesus with and without and all that. So we're going to break it down. We think it's better suited for that show, but also I think we can just pass a comment and say that in the 20-25 minutes we saw, he did look sharp, and fair play to him.
He did look sharp, and he nearly got himself a goal, didn't he?
Yeah.
When he got on the end of that Fabio Vieira pass. Yeah, he did look sharp, you know, it was great to see him back yesterday.
It really is. The roundup stats.
Already? We've reached the roundup stats?
We've reached the roundup stats.
Blimey. Just bear with me.
No
James.
problem at all. Enjoy the 11s, enjoy the team that got that big 3-0 win. They did do well, didn't they?
Right, James, the closing stats for this week. Arsenal won a Premier League game by 3+ goals to 0, with all goals scored in the first half for the first time since September 2016.
Wow.
Can you remember who they beat 3-0 at the Emirates that day in 2016?
Hold on. Is it Man United?
No, it's Chelsea.
No! Oh, of course.
Do you remember that game?
Ozil, when he hit it into the ground over.
Sanchez, Walcott and Ozil got the goals, 3-0. Arsenal have won 5 consecutive away London derbies while making or keeping a clean sheet even each time. It's the first time that has happened away by any capital club in Football League history.
That is an unbelievable.
And these Arsenal wins then in the capital this year: 3-0 against Fulham yesterday, 2-0 at Spurs, 1-0 against Chelsea, 3-0 at Brentford and 2-0 at Palace.
So it's just West Ham to go.
West Ham to go. Gabriel scored in 3 of his 4 Premier League games with Fulham and has now 10 goals for Arsenal in the competition. And finally, James, which I mentioned earlier, Gabriel Martinelli now has scored 12 Premier League goals this season. That's the most goals, excluding penalties, by an Arsenal player since Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, who scored 20 in the 2019-2020 season.
There you go. What a season he's having. What a season this group of players are having. I've got to say that there is so much to love about this performance, from the way we were resilient, composed away from home, very professional about our work, then ruthless, creating an abundance of chances, playing scintillating football, tick-a-tacker at times. You think of the chance where Xhaka flicked it in behind to Martinelli. You think of the Trossard shot wide. You think of Martinelli at the back post in the first half. So many chances, a really healthy looking bench to the point where players like Smith Rowe aren't even getting time on the pitch. Jorginho as well. Nketiah still to come back. Jesus, 20-25 minutes. I don't think you could have asked for a better, more perfect, realistic 90 minutes from Arsenal.
The thing I loved about it was that obviously on the Saturday night, Man City went and won at Crystal Palace 1-0. And for a long time in that game, it looked like it was going to finish 0-0. But they got the penalty late and got the job done. So the pressure was on the team Sunday. Let's say that. To match Man City's result, I thought Fulham away was going to be a trickier fixture than what it turned out, and they responded emphatically with some great football. And this team, I like the thing that Martin Odegaard said, we're not looking upon this as a fighting for the title. We take it game by game. We do the same drills every week in training, and we replicate it in matches. We go game by game. And I think they're handling this really well. We will go into the last 10 games shortly after the international break. That's when the pressure really will be on the team. But so far, they're handling the pressure really well.
They are. Guys, everyone, if you enjoyed this show, let us know in the comments what you make of Arsenal's performance, what you made about the tactical setups, what you make about the goal we scored, what you make about Jesus returning, and how Arteta fits all this quality into the starting team. I thought Vieira looked really good as well. Loads of players fighting for positions in this team. Everyone wants to be a part of that title fight. And I've got to ask, what was that in the changing room with the clock? Was that a 11-2? 11-14, I don't know. I think that was a message Arteta was sending. So discuss all that in the comments. We'll be there to discuss it with you. Big thanks to everyone who's joined us. Big thanks to production. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. And we'll see you very, very soon. What is it? Sporting Lisbon at home, and then, not Sporting Lisbon, Sporting at home, and then it's Palace at home as well. We'll be back next week to talk about it. Thank you very much.
Shop for AFTV merch at shop.aftv.co.uk. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat and Twitch. We've got content for every platform, so check it out.